Welcome to the Steve Stine Guitar Podcast, brought to you by GuitarZoom.com. If you want to improve your guitar playing, keep listening. If you want to improve even faster, go to GuitarZoom.com, where you'll find all of Steve's premium courses, masterclasses, and memberships that'll help you quickly and easily improve your playing. Now here's your host, Steve Stine. That's good, dude. I'm amazed at the bluesy sound you can get out of that gem.
Oh, well, that's the thing. I've been playing, Ibanez and EMG pickups ever since I was a kid, and so we never had money to buy like multiple guitars and stuff. What I had was what I had,
right.
And it took enough money just to get that, and so I never thought about like replacing pickups or buying a different guitar because of the sound. You just own what you owned, and that's what you own. And
Right.
So for me, over the years, that's why I use so much of my toggle switch and my volume and that when I play. Like, it's almost kind of like a tick for me when
Right.
I play, because everything has to be adjusted a certain way. But I remember going in the studio one time when I was younger, and I was recording some Beatles songs and some other stuff, but rocked up a bit, not metal, but rocked up a little bit. And I remember one of the guys in the studio saying, "Wow, I've never heard a guitar like that sound like that." And I always took that as a big compliment because, certainly it can be used for metal and I use it for that, but I use it for everything. So it's just, I think it's all in kind of your touch and your adjustments of things and stuff like that to kind of, so it's my one trick pony. I can play it for anything and
Right.
and make music with it. So
It's pretty cool, dude.
yeah.
Hey guys, I want to thank you for being here. Really appreciate everybody as you're kind of everybody's trickling in here for being with us. I'm Dan Denley, founder of Guitar Zoom, and this is my good friend Steve Stine. Hi, Steve.
Hello, Dan Denley.
And today we're doing another creative soloing workshop for you. This is one of many that we've done for you. And all of these workshop series will be available in a nice, tidy playlist on the YouTube channel. So you just go to the channel, click on playlists, and it'll just look for creative soloing. Put all of these videos we've done there for you, all these live sessions. So if you've missed any of the previous ones, don't worry. You can always go back and watch. If you'd like to be notified of the next one, all you got to do is subscribe and hit the notify button. And if you would like to get the course, Steve's new course, it's called Creative Soloing by Steve Stine, and it's available at GuitarZoom.com. Today, we are doing a pretty cool session on pentatonics, using them creatively. How to take your pentatonic scale, which can be as creative or not as you want it to be. It can be as straightforward as you want, or it can be something super melodic. So Steve's going to show you some tips and tricks with the pentatonic scale and weaving in some rock and some blues. And so if that's kind of your style, then keep listening, keep watching. And if you want to learn it even faster, you can check out the course, Creative Soloing by Steve Stine at GuitarZoom. Take it away, my friend.
All right. So basically, we've talked over the course of these workshops, we've talked about a lot of different things that you use with your pentatonic, using sliding and vibrato and all these different things. And I would encourage you to do those things to make your solo sound a bit more creative, along with your phrasing and stuff like that. But today I thought, if you've never seen me talk about some of these other notes that you can add in, maybe you're kind of new to this sort of thing, we're going to take the regular pentatonic scale and we're going to add in some different notes. Now, you may or may not know why or how they work. And again, it's okay. If you don't understand why they're there, don't worry about it. If you understand what they are, then that's great. But what we're going to do is we're going to take the pentatonic here, and I'm just going to use this. I'm going to go to A. Let's just look at those first 5 notes of the minor pentatonic here. Okay, now what I'm going to do is on the 5th string, okay, now pentatonically speaking, remember I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 notes, and then the 6th note is the octave. Okay? So in between, pentatonically speaking, in between 1, 2, 3, the third and fourth notes of the pentatonic, we're going to add...
Nice.
Wow, I did manic depression right there. Anyway, so I'm going to take that note in between the 5th fret and the 7th fret, and I'm going to add my middle finger in between, and it's going to create more of this chromatic sound. Now, the note that I'm adding in between there is what we refer to as the blue note or the blues note, okay? In theory, we call it the flatted 5th. If you don't know what that is, it's okay, but that's what we're doing. Now, when I add that, I get more of this bluesy sound. Now, the trick to that note in particular is that it's a note that you want to utilize and pass over, but you don't want to emphasize it. You don't want to land on it and emphasize it, because over the root, it's not really going to sound very bluesy at all. So it's a great note to use in conjunction with other notes around it. You see, I can roll over it. It can push me forward, or it can push me backward. But if my rhythm player, for instance, was playing an A major chord or an A power chord or in whatever, that note's going to be very dissonant against the chord that they're playing.
All of a sudden you went to Slayer.
Yeah. That dissonance is a great sound, but it's a temporary thing. So you're creating what's called tension, and then you're resolving that tension by heading backward or heading forward or wherever you go. So that's a real typical way of playing that in a bluesy sense, a blues rock and roll kind of sense, is I roll over it. So I use it in sequence. See how I can just go up or down with it, or I think about it as spreading out. I go forward or go backward. So there's lots of different ways you can approach that. So we'll just start there for now and then see if anybody's got any questions or anything.
Yeah, guys, by the way, if you do have questions, please put them in the comments box. That would be awesome. We will try to help you and answer your questions as we go here. So, Steve, what else can you do with that blue note? I mean, can you move that pattern around? You're playing it in what, A pentatonic? Were you just doing that?
Well, I'm just using the first part. We're gonna move it.
Oh, okay, cool.
We'll talk about that, but just adding it in for now, seeing if that makes sense. So
yeah, I mean, basically you get your pentatonic scale, first 5 notes, and you're adding one extra note. We call it the blue note. I love how in music we have like 3 names for one thing, like blue note, blues note, flatted 5th.
Yeah, I know.
Augmented 4th. No.
Yeah, I know. So anyway, obviously you can add this in anywhere else on the fretboard that it would occur, and an easy trick to finding that note is to think about the fact that when you're playing minor pentatonic from the root, from A, and if I go up 3 notes, 1, 2, 3, boom, there it is. It's the next available note. 1, 2, 3. So anywhere I've got an A and I know my pentatonic scale, of course I have to, I can't move up here and not know where I'm at, right? But if I go to this A, 7th fret of the 4th string, and I play 1, 2, 3, there it is. So it's at the 8th fret on the 3rd string. So it looks a little different, right, than it did here. But if you listen to them, it's the same note. Okay, I'm just now playing it with my pinky because of the position I'm in. Now it sounds more like a detective, a private detective kind of 007 kind of thing. Anyway, that's the note. So we can play it. There's lots of ways of playing it with your fingers around the fretboard. Okay, and again, this is what I've always referred to as escape routes or escape routes, however you say it. Is thinking about the fingering that you wind up on and what you're going to do with it. So in this case, what I might do is I could use that pinky. Maybe I do a hammer-on or a pull-off or something. Or oftentimes what I like about this particular position here, being in this fingering right here, is that I'll do a slide up to that 8th fret and then come back. And I get that sound. Where here, I'm thinking about rolling forward or backward from that note. And I get those kinds of sounds. Here, I use it a little bit differently because my fingering is different. Now, if you know your fretboard, of course, I can take, I can set it up with the same fingers if I know my positions and I understand how that works on the guitar.
Sure.
But, that's the fun of this, is I don't always try and come at everything that I learn from a uniform perspective. It's nice to know that, right? It's nice to have that information. But if I do everything the same way, I get the same result. So again, from a creative perspective, I like to approach different notes differently with my fingers because it forces me to play them differently. See, I could play that blues note with more of that kind of sound, and then when I come down, I would do more of that roll thing to get those sounds.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
Super cool. I've never really thought about that rolling up or down on the kind of lower pitches there, and then or you're bending up to that blue note with the third string.
Well, I could bend to it. With my playing, I really try and manipulate things with bends, vibrato, and sliding. That's what I found in the long run that really makes the guitar sing and sound very unique. There's a gentleman out in the guitar world by the name of Michael Lee Firkins. And Michael Lee Firkins plays without a slide, but you swear he's playing with a slide by the way that he uses his hammer-ons, pull-off slides, all that kind of stuff. Physical slide, an actual slide. He's not using that. He's using his whammy bar, and it's amazing. And that's, again, that manipulation of sound where we're not just thinking about notes as... when we want to run like that, it's nice to have that. But, a lot of times you just want to find a unique way of playing a phrase with just a few notes. Even just sliding backwards from the 8 to the 7. Sounds really cool. You see, instead of sliding forward and backward, which sounds awesome, I might just do something like that where I just slide back. Notice how I put a little pause in, and then it really sets up that sound of that blues note. You see?
Very nice.
It's just learning how to think about, and not, you don't have to get that deep with it, but just thinking about your phrasing and, again, using dynamic contrast to do things that are unique. You don't have to overkill it every time. Every time you come across something new, it doesn't mean, use it in every single thing you do. You might play pentatonic, and then all of a sudden you come off, and you throw that in, and it just adds this spice to that particular phrase.
Sounds so good.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
Guys, if you're just joining us now, we are doing the creative workshop, the creative soloing workshop for you today. We're talking about being creative with pentatonic scales. If you want to continue to learn that, stick with us. If you missed kind of the meat of this, you can always, don't worry, we're going to save all this for you in a nice, tidy playlist on the YouTube channel. You can go back and watch it, any of the previous sessions as well. If you'd like to get the course, Steve's new course is called Creative Soloing by Steve Stine, and it's available at GuitarZoom.com. Man, you resonated with me when you said bends, vibrato, and sliding. Like that just kind of sums it up when you were talking about elements of your playing that you just kind of focus on that make it stand out.
Yeah, and it's not a matter of factly thing where a lot of times people will think, well, my teacher taught me how to bend, so I get it. It's okay to get it, but that's different than being able to manipulate it, right? There's a big difference between being able to manipulate the technique itself as opposed to just understanding that it works. How does a bend work? Well, you bend the string up in the air a certain distance, and that's true, but it's really learning how to control and manipulate it. So when I was younger, bending was a matter-of-fact sort of thing. It went up a whole step, and I use them all the time. But there's all these subtle things, especially when you start adding them together, when you add slides and bends and vibrato. For me, it's kind of all mushed together at times when I'm playing. Like I might even go to a note that's really kind of awkward, but if I go to it, it gives it a different kind of sound, you see? So like for me, bending and vibrato, and we're kind of getting off on a tangent here, but those kinds of things are things that you want to really learn about. And again, this is that creative space in your head where it's not just about going for 5 minutes a day and not downplaying that. It's important. But learning how to approach you can really put life into the things that you're playing by learning how to control the notes, add some new unique colors, like this new note that I've added, this blues note. And again, I always think kind of use them sporadically. Like we talked about in one of the previous workshops, we talked about chord chasing. And really the bottom line with chord chasing is using certain notes over certain chords. You could use any of those notes over any of those chords and it would be fine. They'll all work. But if you're not emphasizing, I remember someone saying to me in some capacity, if you're emphasizing everything, which means you're playing everything, you're emphasizing nothing. Like nothing is standing out. So the trick is trying to figure out when you have something that's really great, a note or a phrase or, whatever it might be, if you just have 17 run-on sentences and that thing is sitting in the center, nobody's going to react to it because it's just everything, right? And we often think of that as speed, but that's why I don't play fast but that's not true. Fast phrases can be very, very, very dynamic and energetic and powerful, but they're even more so if you follow them up with something that's different. Mm-hmm. Right? So those are always been my favorite players. Now, I love guys like Yngwie Malmsteen, where it's 100 miles an hour all the time. I love him. I love his playing. But that's not what I emulate to try and be. I like the fast stuff, and then it's followed by something that's really soulful and slow. And then again, you charge and you throw something really dynamic in there. So I always think of speed as it's just one more spice that goes into the pot that you're trying to cook. It's a very important and very potent spice. And without it, you don't have that excitement, you see? So for me, it's not about, less is more or more is less or more is more or just, all these things that people talk about. I don't care about any of that stuff. It's about dynamics. That's what it is. It's about being dynamic on the instrument and playing in a way that suits you. So, think about that when you're playing. When you learn a new note or you learn a new lick or whatever it might be, try and figure out how to use it strategically so you don't overkill it every time you grab the guitar.
Right. Man, I love listening to you talk about all this stuff for a lot of reasons, but one of them is I've been around long enough to know the difference between someone who's faking it and someone who actually knows what the hell they're talking about. And you can tell that the wisdom that you're sharing here about the no absolutes, like, in the previous session we had done, we were talking about this whole seemingly endless battle between the two camps of people like theory is absolutely necessary, other camp theory is not necessary. And we were like, no, it depends on where you are in your journey and which part is most applicable to you right now.
That's right.
Then just hearing you talk about how, there's, Malmsteen has a certain style and then some other person has their style. And then you got to figure out what you want to do, where you play and what's going to be applicable to you. And because ultimately it comes down to the enjoyment of the instrument, and the better you are, the more fun it is to play. Right. And the wisdom that you're able to share after teaching for 30, teaching and playing, actually playing live, touring, being a session guy, being a live musician, jamming with other people, and teaching and having taught for years and years one-on-one with other people, you're just bringing a wisdom that I think is just awesome. And I hope everybody watching this can tap into that and recognize that that's something special that you're sharing here.
Well,
It's good
thank you.
stuff.
And, always remember, like, when we use the word better, when Dan says better, remember that better can mean a lot of things. Sometimes better just means control, right? Sometimes better just means really controlling the situation that you find yourself in. I remember being a kid thinking that pentatonics were kind of for beginners, and then modes and stuff were for the advanced players, the better players. And I as I get older, I've realized that really couldn't be more wrong. It's just how you use what you know, right? And then adding some fuel to that fire when needed. So maybe you're in a place where you need more than just a pentatonic, right?
If you're enjoying this episode and you'd like to support the podcast, go to GuitarZoom.com and consider becoming a premium member. There are 3 memberships to choose from. VIP, which gives you instant access to a library of short but powerful courses, as well as new bite-sized lessons each month. There's also Play Songs that gives you step-by-step lessons so you can learn to play your favorite songs fast. And finally, there's Masterclass, university-level training on everything from soloing to music theory, from blues to home recording. For more info about these memberships and all the premium courses available to you, go to GuitarZoom.com. Now back to the podcast.
Or you need more technique, or you need a little more theory. But the goal is for you to be aware of it. That's the most important thing is with all the students that I've had, certainly in my private lessons, it was always trying to make sure that they started learning on their journey how to be aware of what they needed and of what they didn't need as they keep going, because you don't know what you don't know, especially when you first jump into this infinite ocean of guitar playing, because it's like, dear God, what do I do and where do I start, and what do I need to know? Because you don't know what you don't know. The more you start learning about that, and you start becoming more aware of the things that you hear something or see something or read something, and you go, okay, that not I want to be an astronaut. We all do that. It's not that. It's that thing right there makes sense to me, and I can see how that could work in my playing. And I always thought in my mind, that's what I want to try and teach to students, because if I was to kick off tomorrow, they still would be able to utilize that information. They're not going, okay, but we're only 3 weeks into a 9-month thing that, it isn't that. It's understanding how the ladder works, how you keep going to the next step each time. So if you can fill these spaces, and again, I'm not trying to waste your time with talking, but if you can fill these spaces with understanding, oh, that's a cool thing. Now, learning how to do what I just did, not that I did anything fancy, but learning how to phrase, it takes time. Just because you learn what the blues note is doesn't mean you can really use it effectively, right? But if you think, roll up or roll down, and you think that in your mind, then you go, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. So when I go to it, I'm going to roll forward, or I'm going to roll backward, or maybe a tongue twist, right? Well, that sounds pretty cool if I throw a little vibrato on that note. And again, understand, I'm controlling that vibrato, right? I'm not calling space aliens, right? That's what I've always thought of when I hear people do this. Like you're in some sort of weird bubble, right? It's at least to me, right? Somebody else might listen to that and go, that's exactly what I'm looking for. Well, that's great. For me, it hurts my ears. What I'm looking for, because of who I am and the way I've grown up, I just want a nice smooth vibrato. And then I'm using dynamic. You can hear it gets, just all these things are all kind of intertwined.
Yeah, playing, I think, is the mystery of playing is that when you hear it, when it's real, and you're like, I want to be able to do that. But when you actually start breaking down what a great player is doing, there's not just one trick, one hack, one tip, one.
No.
It's a lifelong journey.
Well, you've got to learn to. Okay, I'm not entirely in agreement with what I'm going to say, but you've got to learn, you can't be thinking about everything that you're doing. You've got to hear what you're doing, right? It'd be kind of like, I don't know, I could use a million analogies, but let's say, you're watching a race and all these cars are going around, right? You can tell what they're doing and you can tell the basic structure or the basic strategy of what's happening. But for them, there's a lot of intuition that needs to be going on to be able to keep the car in control and, watch out for the car next to them and know when to speed up and know when to slow down. And, if there's any spots on the track and God knows what, because I don't know anything about racing. I'm just saying, and all of that is happening intuitively. They're not, you learn through the process, but in the, when you get to a certain level, that's what makes you, and I never like to use the word professional. I always use the word authentic. So when you're doing it, it's just a real thing, like a real thing is coming out of it. So when you get too caught up in one element, it might benefit the bigger picture, but it might distract you. It might throw you off because now all of a sudden you're doing is just focusing on this thing. That's why creativity oftentimes, that's why I love to talk about creativity, because guitar players, and I'm not being rude, I'm just being honest, more often than not aren't thinking creative. They're thinking factual because that's what we do. We train people, play this scale up and down, set your metronome at 120 and do this. And I'm not making fun of it all. We need all of that, no doubt about it. But if that's all we did, it would just be routine. There would never be a real feel to what's happening. You see? So you have to learn how to combine all of these factual, I always call them by route, just these things that you practice, these fundamental things. You need those fundamental things. But if everything is based off nothing but fundamentals, where's the music? Well, see, the music's sitting in between all those fundamentals. We need the fundamentals, but the music isn't the fundamentals. The music's in between those. It's like when you write on a piece of paper and you write all these sentences. It's not the sentences, it's in between the sentences. Sentences are telling you the story, right? But the music is in between there. So that's what we have to try and do is, and I'm not saying I'm some king at this thing. I'm working just as much as anybody else to learn how to do this. Every day I'm aware of it. I've just, the older I get and the longer I've played, the more I realize that it can't just be about any one thing. Where when I was younger, my goals were different than they are as I get older.
Really cool concept, man. It reminds me of like the story I heard of these, there was a fire at a residence and the firefighters showed up and they ran into the living room and they noticed that the fire was in the kitchen. So they got their hose and they're spraying the fire in the kitchen. And every time they put it out, it would just light back up. The fire chief came in and is standing there in the living room and he's looking around. He's an old dude, right? And he's looking at the fire in the kitchen. He's looking at his guys trying to put out the fire. He's looking at the way the fire is behaving. He's calculating like how the heat is in the room and everything. And he just instantly said, everybody get out of the house. Like he was screaming, get out now. And they all just bolted out. And as they're like the last guys leaving, the floor where the living room was collapsed. And it turns out that the fire was in the basement. And the whole reason that they couldn't put it out in the kitchen is because the flames were lipping up into the kitchen, but they were trying to put it out, not realizing the fire was below them.
Oh, sure.
So there's this whole like, anyway, I tell that story because I think with musicians, with great musicians, there's a certain level of awareness that putting these different pieces of the puzzle in, even though they kind of make sense. I know scales. I know articulation and bending and vibrato and sliding. I know these techniques. I know strumming patterns. I know a quarter and a half note and an eighth note, right? And you can know all that stuff, but then assimilating it, it takes time to like really develop your craft to a level that you just intuitively know when you're playing that it's sounding great and you're really being expressive.
Right. And so, well, I had 2 points if I can remember them, but the one point I will say for sure is when I was a kid, there was a difference between what we called practice and noodling. And you weren't supposed to noodle because noodling was wasting your time. You should practice. Okay? That might be true. But I think what people don't spend enough time with is exploring the elements that they're trying to learn and utilize them in a creative way, right? Because I never used to do that. Because, I mean, the metronome's got to be on and I got to be doing my thing. That's how I'm productive. It wasn't, and there's a difference between creative practice and noodling. There really is, right? But creative practice is trying to pull away some of those parameters of the metronome and all these things and just make something make sense, make something fit, whether it's fit with your technique, fit with the way you think, fit with what you see, fit with the way you move around the fretboard. There's a million different ways that you could do it. And that was my second point, was the way I started learning. I learn better now because I understand that I need smaller bits of information. And I don't need a lot of them. I just need to find the best gems. I need to find the best little nuggets of gold but I have to be aware of that. And it's not like I'm right every time. Sometimes I'll be on a path and I'll be trying to, engage an element and it's just not fitting. And then I have to be wise enough to go, okay, I got to put that to the side because it's not working. And it doesn't make me a loser and it doesn't make me suck and all these other things. It's not working. So right. Let me try another piece and let me see if that piece works a little bit better. And that's kind of, those two things are what I think a lot of times people are missing because we're on this massive goal to, I got to do this and I got to do this and I got to do this. And social media and all this stuff gives us 1 billion things a day to look at. And right. I got to learn that and I got to learn that. No, I need that. All of that might be true, but your brain and your body and your mind are not capable of being able to input all of that. So you wind up kind of getting lost in all of this stuff. And so, again, I want to stop talking, but I think those things relating to the story that you just told, that's wisdom, is being aware of the situation you find yourself in and what you do and don't need and how to react to that. Even in your daily practice routine of getting new information and going, okay, that's enough. Shut down the book, shut down the video, whatever. That's enough. Now let me digest this. Where if we never digest it, we just have little, because how many times in my life have I come across people that can play great, right? And they know all this stuff, and then the music starts and they go, I don't know what to do. I'm not sure what to do.
I've seen that.
Oh God, I've seen it a billion times. And that's the real world. This is the real world now. This isn't, and not everybody needs to exist in the real world. I'm not saying everybody plays in a band or everybody does, but I meet more people often that write themselves off going, well, I never want to play in a band. Are you sure? Or are you just saying that because you've already written yourself off that you're never going to be good enough or you're never going to be confident enough? See, that's the problem, is you've got to find a way of being confident in your playing. You've got to find a way of understanding the little pieces that can make the big difference. So anyway, I'll stop talking, but hopefully that helps.
This is a great conversation, brother. I mean, this is the stuff that I don't think anybody can teach somebody else how to play a G chord. Okay, let's just be honest with ourselves. You don't need to be a rocket surgeon to figure that out.
That's right.
But the reality is, the stuff that we're talking about here is the stuff that gets down to the heart and soul of what it means to be a musician, and how to interact with other musicians and how to really take that, it's that it factor type thing. I do want to mention, you did jog my memory about something. We have a membership, guys, that's called VIP. And we've done a pretty bad job at letting people know about it. It's almost like, I don't know, we just haven't done a good job of telling people about this thing. It's called VIP membership. And it's something it's a monthly membership. And what you get is specific bite-size lessons that are highly impactful to your playing. And it's really meant, Steve and I, we've had this thing around a long time, but we haven't done a good job of advertising it and telling people about it. But VIP membership, Steve and I, we sat down and we thought, well, what do people actually need versus kind of what you think you need? And we came up with this concept of what you really need is to recognize that guitar playing is a lifelong journey, if you want it to be. And it's really, really easy in the world we currently live in to get completely overwhelmed with information. to the point that you have analysis paralysis, you have information overload, you get overwhelmed, frustrated, and you're like, well, I'm never going to learn this stuff, so I'm just going to quit, which I think happens to a lot of people. Or they're like, I'm stuck, because you're like paralyzed with all the information. Anyway, VIP was basically the antithesis of that. Steve and I came with this concept of like, let's just have this membership where it's not 10,000 courses, 10,000 videos to weed through, and you're like, oh, already overwhelmed. Okay. How about you just log in and you have access to a library, a specific library of skills and techniques. And then you have one particular impactful video lesson to watch per month, right? It's not available on YouTube. It's not in other courses. Steve creates these VIP lessons specifically for VIP members. The people who are in it end up staying forever because they love it. And it's just this really simple thing, because what it does is it allows you to say, I'm going to log in this month and I'm going to learn that one thing that Steve was talking about. And if I do just that one thing, I'm going to see myself get better. And if I see myself get better, that's going to inspire me to want to continue, to have more fun, to continue my learning, play with other musicians, whatever you want to do. But it eliminates that information overwhelm. So it's really the opposite of kind of the way the world's going. We're like, let's just clear everything out. Just give you a really simple path. Log in, learn this one thing. I just wanted to mention that, since you were talking about how that's kind of the way you learn or sometimes you just pick out one thing and latch onto it and forget about everything else for a while.
Yep, you're right. Absolutely. And it's important to learn how to do that. You know, if you start watching a video or you start reading something or whatever it might be, and you realize, again, even if you're intrigued by it, you can certainly bookmark it and come back to it. But to make the most progress, sometimes you just need to find the things that really connect to where you are. Because if you miss too many rungs of the ladder, you wind up falling, you know? And that's kind of the trick and it's not easy. It's not, again, it's easy for us to talk about. It's not always easy to figure that out about yourself. But the more intuitive you are and the more you pay attention to what you can do, like most people just go, I can't do that. I can't do that. Well, there's a lot of things you can do. You're just not aware of it. So if you can start becoming more aware of those little pieces and go, well, maybe what I need to do is just really learn how to do a really nice slide, or a hammer-on pull-off, or really control my, bending, or what, it could be anything, right? But really focusing in on that and going, okay, so now what I need to do, even though it seems like a simple idea, which it maybe is, but applying it is the goal. It's not just learning it. I mean, we're so good as humans of going, get it, I got it, and then you move on. And then you go, oh crap, I forgot about that. Like I was, supposed to be good to my neighbor, and I forgot. It just kind of slipped my mind. And when, it's important for us to really try and keep the good stuff close. And you've got to spend time, again, whether you call it noodling or creative practicing, whatever, but you've got to nurture it. Otherwise it'll go away.
That's right.
Like the stuff you keep, you've got to spend time honing it in, developing it, mushing it into what you already know. Because if it's just this thing out here that you practiced, it doesn't mean it's part of this ecosystem over here. Mm-hmm. You got to pull it in. That's the important thing. So yeah, you're right. VIP is great for that, because that's the whole point. You might start watching a video or even know from the title, go, yeah, that makes sense. That's something. Well, then you watch it, and it's not Netflix. You don't watch that and 17 other ones. You just watch it and go, yep, okay, I'm gonna use that.
Man, and I think it's we love to trick ourselves into thinking that if we just continue watching stuff, that somehow is making us better. The reality is, you watch one thing and then you shut it off and then you go apply it. That's what makes you better.
We don't learn. Well, number one, we don't learn in a vacuum, and number two, we don't learn by osmosis. It doesn't work that way. You got it. And sometimes an idea will sink in very quickly, and sometimes it takes some time. But that's the whole thing. Is at the end of the day, for me, to be honest, it just isn't about how much information you have. I don't care how smart you are. It doesn't matter. That's all words to me. It's when your fingers hit the strings. I don't care if it's slow. I don't care if it's fast. I don't care if it's country, rock, blues. I don't care about any of that. Good is good.
Right.
That's it. It's just authentic is authentic. The rest of it doesn't matter to me. So.
I hear you, dude. This has been fantastic. Guys, if you're just now joining us, don't worry. We're about to wrap it up here, but I do appreciate you coming, and we will save all of these live sessions for you on the YouTube channel, wherever you are watching this. I realize this broadcast thing goes out to YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and all of those things. Just want to mention a few resources for you. We will save all of these live sessions for you in a nice, tidy playlist called Creative Soloing. The playlist will be called Creative Soloing. It'll be available on the YouTube channel. If you want to get notified of the next one, just click subscribe and notify. If you would like to get the course, Steve's new course is called Creative Soloing. This entire series that we're doing here is about his new course. It's called Creative Soloing by Steve Stine, available at GuitarZoom.com. Also, I want to mention, we mentioned the VIP Club. You might want to join that. There's information there on GuitarZoom if you'd like to check that out. Also, we have a podcast. So we were actually talking to, we did a live thing over in Nashville a while back, and there was a gentleman who had driven from, I want to say, Kansas to Nashville. He was a truck driver, and he was saying how he loved to just turn on the YouTube videos or the courses and just listen to him as he was driving his truck. And we're like, why don't we just have a podcast? And so there's this opportunity if you're jogging around the block or if you're riding in your cars. Obviously, there's just opportunity to listen to audio and get this stuff in your brain. It's called the Steve Stine Podcast, Steve Stine Guitar Podcast. So go check that out, subscribe to that, and share it. If you've gotten any value out of this, guys, one of the greatest compliments you can do for us is to like and share this with someone that you think might be able to benefit. Tell us your feedback. And hey, if you're interested in taking your guitar soloing to a completely new creative level, I would encourage you to look at Steve's new course, Creative Soloing by Steve Stine from GuitarZoom.com. Steve, anything else to add to this awesome session, buddy?
No, I'm good. I hope that helps everybody.
Man, me too. Guys, thank you so much for being here. We will see you on the next Creative Soloing Workshop. See you next time.
Thank you, everybody. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon.
Bye, guys.
Next time on the Steve Stine Guitar Podcast, this concept is a little bit harder to really define and explain, but what I have found is that a lot of times it's like walking and then running into the wall, and you don't have any more space to move, so the only thing you can do is move backward, right? Or turn around, right? So the thing about finding an escape route is when you play something, you're going to wind up on a particular finger, on a particular string. And then you've got to decide at that point which way you're going to move. And of course, that's going to define what you have available at that point. So if you think about it, and again, there's a billion examples, and I have been trying to show you throughout these workshops different examples of escape routes. But let's say I was in A minor pentatonic-ish, okay? And I was playing a phrase on the 4th and 3rd string. So I get to my 3rd finger there on the 7th fret. Now, obviously, at any time, I can move down or up, right, to continue my journey. Unless I'm on the 1st string. Then, again, my escape route has got to be to move up, because that's all I have. Now, we have side to side as well. So that's what I want to explain to you. Hey, Steve Stine here from GuitarZoom.com, and thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, can I ask you a favor? Please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. Your feedback means more to me than you'll ever know. And be sure to check out my YouTube channels where you'll find over 1,000 videos to help you with your guitar playing. Thanks again for listening. Stay positive, keep playing, and keep having fun.
If you'd like some help with your guitar playing but you're not sure how to get started, go to GuitarZoom.com and look for the Help Me Choose survey. By answering a few simple questions, you'll get Steve's personal recommendation of the perfect course for you. All this and more is available for you at GuitarZoom.com.